Hi, it's Mrs. Greno, and I am in Algebra 1, Lesson 1.02. So I wanted to work through or have this video go through Lesson 1.02 to model how you should be working through a lesson and how you should be taking notes effectively. I wanted to point out a few things here. So I'm on the first page of the lesson, some of the menu options up here in terms of being able to jump from module to module, but also the notes option. In terms of taking good notes here, this brings you to a Cornell Notes, which is a method of taking notes that I'm going to show you the setup of that. So this is a good thing to do in your notebook for every single lesson. So as you come to a new lesson, you want to start a new page in your notebook, even if the last page wasn't filled completely. And you can see here's just the setup of your notebook paper. If you click notes here, again, it goes through a little bit more, gives you some audio options. I'm just going to click through and kind of explain them as I see them. So you're going to set up your notebook paper. Ideally, you're going to make sure you put the topic on the top of it. So this would be 1.02. Again, we're talking algebra expressions. So you want to make sure that you put that. You can put the date on there. You don't necessarily have to put your name and course every single time. From there, you can see you divide your notebook page. You give a little bit of a column over here on the left. This is where you're going to put kind of the main ideas, and on the right side, you're going to put your notes. So main ideas, kind of think of every page that you kind of go through sets up a different maybe vocabulary words or talks about a different type of problem that you're going to be working on or a type of skill. And then the notes are maybe the steps or an example over on the right hand side. Um, I'm going to finish going through here. Again, select the most important sentences or go in examples, any graphs, charts, anything like that, abbreviations, shortcuts. If you're going to highlight, you're going to bold anything. And again, main ideas, key concepts, or questions that you might have. So those are kind of the things over in the left-hand column. And then to really wrap it up and be really organized and taking good notes is at the bottom of that page is that you're going to create kind of like a summary. So that might be a good one is, going back to kind of the learning objectives or the questions you need to answer, kind of writing kind of your thoughts based on those. Now, again, if you needed to take 2 pages, again, you would fill up 2 pages for 1.02, or maybe you're doing 1 page of notes and the other page is going to be you're writing out your homework assignment if you need to show any work with that. So that's basically the Cornell note-taking system. Okay, so that's a really good way to kind of organize your notebook for math. As we go back here, though, we're going to go to page 1. So you want to see here that it introduces, every lesson is going to introduce it here, just giving you some opportunities. So it talks about you just received a part-time job working for an electronics store in a mall. Your first task on the job is to take inventory of the boxes that were delivered today and put them away. So start representing things in terms of variables, X, Y, Z, any of that. It gives you that opportunity to go ahead and play with these items in terms of you are about to randomly be given 9 boxes that you must sort according to the table. So when you get through these things with the lesson, really kind of interact with them, like where you want them to go, okay? And also working through checking the answers. So you can see here, checking the answers based on what you're given, and then working through that next one. Again, thinking about the question they're asking, checking it, at this point, you don't need to write down a bunch of notes. Sometimes when they're introducing it, hopefully this is trying to kind of connect either what you already know, some stuff that you've learned, or really introduce it to what you're going to be seeing in this next lesson. Here again, you can play around with it. Do you know what I mean? In terms of writing in the box, trying to figure out what would work here for this situation. When I talk about the essential questions that you want to be able to answer, this is a really good thing to have it in summary at the end of your lesson. So how do you interpret expressions that represent a quantity in terms of a context? And how do you interpret the parts of an expression, such as the vocabulary words such as term, factors, and coefficients? So when you get from here, then you're going on to the next lesson page of 1.02. So going vocabulary that you should know. At this point, again, you should be having out your lesson summary packet. So make sure that you have that printed copy of the lesson summary packet that you see here. Because then you can see that a lot of these notes are already in that, so you don't have to rewrite them twice. You can, but you don't have to, okay? So that's always an option to be reviewing that as you look at the lesson summary packet. And sometimes these pages take a little bit to load, so you have to be really patient Or sometimes what I find for myself, I'm in Google Chrome right now, is that even sometimes clicking on them again brings it back up. So again, taking a second just to let everything show up. You always have that show text option, okay? So as you read through some of this, make sure that you understand the vocabulary. Okay, so again, these are in your lesson summary packet, but for yourself, sometimes it's nice to write things out again. So these could be important words that you're writing on that left-hand side of the column in your notebook. Combining like terms, understanding what those mean, understanding what like terms are. And if you didn't know, you could click on that and you have the opportunity to work through some what like terms are like again. So you're able to look at those. Let me move me out of the way. There we go. Then they talk about factors. So again, do you understand what a factor is? So reading through that, when adding or subtracting expressions, you may need to find factors of each term before simplifying. Factors that are common to two or more numbers or values are referred to as common factors. So being able to find the factors of that. So working through that. At the end of a lot of pages, you'll see these try it. So again, this is your opportunity to get that immediate feedback. So being able to click here, try a couple problems, get that feedback back right away. Like, do I get it? Do I understand it? Instead of waiting until you go to an assignment, okay? You get that immediate check answer. You know, how many terms are there? Boom, you got that one, okay? Next one, what are the coefficients in each of these terms? So again, think in yourself, give yourself those couple seconds to kind of think in your head what they would be, and then go ahead and check that answer. Page 3 then, so we talked about like terms, we talked about factors, we talked about coefficients, all that vocabulary that you want to be able to do. Now the next thing is again, and this is a main topic or a main idea, is being able to combine like terms. So understanding how to combine like terms and working through those steps. So you can see they work through the different steps 1, 2, and 3. So this is an example you could write in your notebook. Here's ones with different signs. So now you have to make sure you understand positive and negative numbers, right? Notice that you can't combine, you're looking here at the 5 plus 5r squared with the 4 or the -2 because they're not like terms, right? Because they don't have the same exact exponent. So notice that just because it has an r doesn't mean they're like terms. So again, combining like terms. So I'm not going to necessarily go into every single thing. I still want you to kind of be able to click through and work through the lesson, okay? And here it's multiplying like factors. So how does this work? When I take an a to the third power times a to the fifth, what can I do? And you can see here it shows you kind of it worked out. And this is actually going back to exponent properties, which you're going to get a little bit more in Module 4. And it ends up with that I end up with a to the 8th power. So that I'm obviously adding a 3 times here, or multiplying a 3 times here, and a 5 times here, giving me a to the 8th. So you can see where you get that opportunity to kind of work through these. Again, another try it. So go ahead and do that on your own. It's coming. Slowly but surely here. Next here is evaluating expressions. So now that you have a process called substitution. So this means when you can replace a variable with a given value and evaluate the expression. So kind of a heads up with your assignment, the first couple questions are going to be vocabulary questions. So definitely if you go into an assignment, if you're not quite sure, you haven't written that definition down, or if you haven't looked at the lesson summary, go back and do that before you just choose one of the answers for vocabulary. But substitution, we're going to use that word a lot in algebra. So work through again these examples. You can see here again evaluating an expression. So write these examples down. So here's your expression. Again, expression does not have an equal sign in it. You're going to be substituting in x equaling 4, y equals -3, and z equals -1. So you're going to have a couple problems like this also on your assignment. You have to be really careful with those negatives. Do you know what I mean? When, for example, minusing y means I'm actually minusing a -3, okay? So one thing that you want to do is work through the process they do, making sure that you include this step where you basically rewrite the expression, substituting in the values so you can kind of just see how everything is, and then start applying your order of operations. Do you know what I mean? In this case, you don't really have any exponents, but you have that minus a negative here. Or here you can think of it like a -3 times a -1. So make sure you work through this example and write this down in your notebook. Here's some more examples. So if that didn't really make sense to you, click here and look at some more examples. Here's a reminder of order of operations. And again, there's that try it again where you can get that immediate feedback. So please don't skip over that, especially if you're not quite sure if you understand it before you go to the assignment. Here we're on page 5, so we're getting to the end of the lesson. So here's some real world expressions. So kind of giving you situations with variables in terms of how they're going to represent it and understanding what it means then. So when you see 35x, what did that mean in this situation? So that's where, again, looking at how much would she make if she worked 27 hours, understanding how that applies here. Oh, 27 is what x represents, so I just take 35 times 27. How is this expression created? So going through each of these 4 examples will give you some real world expressions. And maybe the one that was maybe the most confusing initially is the one that you actually write down in your notebook. On to page 6, so this is now the part of the lesson where you get that practice. So you had the try it part, okay, you kind of did those, but now you get some other ones. You can begin this practice session, and again, you can see all the vocabulary, so you should understand the definitions for all of these. So if you don't, make sure you write those down in your notebook. So these should be all definitions that are either in your lesson summary packet, you've highlighted them, or you've written those definitions down in your math notebook. Once you work through that practice page, so again, definitions, just kind of getting that really good base for algebra that's going to help you as you kind of move through the rest of the modules, modules 2, 3, 4, and 5. For this segment, here's some more practice now. So here you are simplifying, whether you're combining like terms, what do you do with the variables? Okay, again, simplifying. How do you simplify these? X plus XX plus X plus X plus X. So these are different, okay? And then here again, evaluating expressions. So having that opportunity to work through some of these, specifically this one down here, number 7. Since you're raising X squared and Y to the 3rd, and you're using negative 2 for Y. So make sure you, again, these are another place to, if you haven't written examples down, write the examples down here from those practice problems after you've thought through them. And again, the final page of lesson 1.02 is, again, the lesson summary. So you have this in your packet already, so you should see this and be comfortable with everything that you see here in terms of some examples, some notes, some vocabulary. At this point, if you're feeling good, you're going to go ahead and go to that assignment 1.02 and start it. Remember with assignments that you can start it, you can save it, you can come back to it. So if there's something you don't know, you can go back in the lesson and take a look for it. The other thing is that assignments can be resubmitted. So if you see that you get a lower score or you want to make some corrections on assignment and there's not an arrow there yet, please reach out to me. So please email me or call me. But make sure you're working on that note-taking process right from the beginning. So any more questions with 1.02, let me know.